Jair Brown, he was getting. I know in our Slack channel, also from my friend was texting me during the game. He was the oddly enough the defensive player that was getting ragged on the most for being a liability, and yet he had probably two of the biggest plays. He was responsible for both of Penn State's takeaways. Recovering that. Geez, I mean, I don't know what that fumble was about when they were trying to hand it off. It's like I feel like when you play the old NCAA football video games, there's like some glitch, that just causes the ball to go off.
Yep.
Just go
That's
off.
honestly what it looked like.
It looked like a glitch in a video game kind of thing. It just bounced off of Maryland player's helmet and just was there for Brown to just scoop it up and fall on it.
Because like when that fumble would happen, I was eating. So like I take a bite and I look up and I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, like I reached down to pick my food. I had to have missed something while I was eating, and they showed the replay. And I'm like, no, it really was that freaky, fluky, weird of a play. And I guess whenever you're Maryland, I'm sure if you talk to Maryland fans, I'll tell you this is the kind of stuff that happens to Maryland.
Yeah, I think there's well, I'm in the Solid Verbals Discord channel, and there was like a Maryland fan in there who was just happy that Maryland was hanging tough for 3 quarters. So
yeah,
this just describes the minds. I remember like looking at. I think I saw a link to like their own 24/7 message board, and look at the predictions here. Well, I guess to be fair, there was a contest. Like you had to predict the final score and the time possession, like as a tiebreaker. Whoever's the closest would win a prize. So I guess we put a prize on there. Maybe people get less homeristic. So I was a little surprised though to see how many Maryland fans were predicting Penn State would, blow them out by like 3-4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
it shows how little confidence they have in their program.
Which is weird too, because I know, in our Black Shoe Diary Slack channel, this is something we've talked about a lot in recent years. One of the things we usually get a good chuckle out of is how many Maryland fans usually are on the other boat thinking they're going to blow Penn State out, or, hey, this is finally the year we beat Ohio State or whatever it might be. So like you said, maybe putting the prize on that's what it takes to get Maryland fans to be a little more realistic in these things.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I was going back to the fumble, and then also they I lost count how many times like when they were driving and then in the Penn State territory, and then they would commit a dumb penalty, like a false start, or I say dumb, maybe just untimely. They get a false start, they would get a holding penalty or intentional grounding, and that would end up putting them out of field goal range. Even, I mean, they cost themselves. I forget about getting the answer. I mean, they cost themselves probably. I'm thinking off the top of my head, probably at least 2 field goals in this one, which could have made it. They could have been leading at some. I don't think they ever led in this game, but they
did
could have
not.
been ahead at some point if they hadn't shot themselves in the foot. And I also lost count just how many times the receivers dropped balls that they should have brought down that could have been huge gains or even touchdowns maybe. But so Penn State did dodge some bullets too, to be fair. But I guess we can talk about why Maryland fans in general don't. Are thinking to themselves, "Oh, same old Maryland." That I guess today's performance is one of those reasons why.
Yeah, like you said, it was Maryland definitely made a lot of mistakes. I thought Jalen Duncan, who is a very talented offensive tackle, definitely an NFL level guy. I don't know if Arnold Ebiketie was just living in his head or what, but I think he got flagged for, I know at least 2, if not 3 false starts today. He got called for a holding. Like you said, a lot of untimely penalties by Maryland. And that goes back to, like I said, about Penn State's defense, where I give them a lot of credit, is a lot of these penalties by Maryland were penalties that get forced by a defense. A holding call. There was that intentional grounding where Tagovailoa was back there running for his life and just chucked it up. Like, yes, that's the offense committing a penalty, but that's still a penalty that the play of the defense drew the penalty. And I thought, like I said, that was one of the areas where Penn State's defense really came through. And to their credit also, when Maryland made those mistakes, penalties, turnovers, whatever it was, they would step up and take advantage of it. There were plenty of drives, as we mentioned, where Maryland, like you said, cost themselves, even in field goals, probably cost themselves 6 to 9 points. And because of the defense taking advantage of those mistakes, were able to then keep the Terps off the board that drive. And obviously that all proved to be huge coming down the end.
Although oddly enough, look at the penalty stats. Penn State had more penalties than Maryland. It's 7 for 54 yards. Maryland had only 4 for 25 yards, which a little weird to me. It seemed like
Yeah, I would not have guessed that.
No, unless maybe that's a typo. I don't know, but
I mean, I knew Penn State. It was not a clean game for Penn State. I mean, what Joey Porter Jr. had, I think, 2 defense pass interference calls.
Yeah, defensive holding. Well, this is the other thing. They had a defensive holding called on Brisker's what we thought was
Interception,
probably a game-sealing interception by Brisker with 4 minutes to go, but they called defensive holding on that play. So Maryland got new life, fresh set of downs until Jair Brown stepped up to ice the game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I knew Penn State had their fair share of penalties, but I would have guessed that hearing Penn State at 7 penalties for, what'd you say, almost 100 yards, whatever, is not surprising. But I would have guessed Maryland would have been about right there with them. So, yeah, it's just, again, it's for me, it's a feel-good win in a lot of ways. If you look at just the score, it's a little bit different for anyone who didn't watch the game. His game was definitely closer to the final score. But Penn State was in a position they just needed a win after the last 3 weeks. And something you and I talked about in the post-game show last week, Penn State under James Franklin after Ohio State has not always been good. I mean, this week it gets him back to 500 the week after the Buckeyes. He's 4-4 now, but this was actually only the second time they ever covered the spread the week after playing Ohio State. So, yeah, that's also, I think, a big thing for them where – and, anyone who's ever played a sport – yes, you'll always say you don't think about that kind of stuff, but it's human nature. That's going to get into your head. So moving forward as a program, that's where this victory could be good on a building block kind of thing where, okay, you know what? We finally put that struggling after the Ohio State game behind us, and we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right. Yeah, it was a nice monkey for them to get off their backs. Like I said, typically the week after playing Ohio State, they tend to come out and fall flat on their face. And I guess to be fair, they looked for 3 quarters was looking that way, and until they, got their act together in the 4th quarter. But again, good on them. They finally, just it was a relief to see this team finally win one of these clunkers that they've been playing, these last few games. So.